Hello YouTube, it's Akai again, back with another video from the home studio, and today let's talk about the upcoming 2.11 update for the MPCs from Akai. That's going to be released on the 23rd of June, so it's not here quite yet, but I've had my hands on it for a while and I just want to walk through it, you know? We're getting 2 new plugins and some minor improvements to some of the existing ones that we got in the 2.10 update about a year ago. Some new things are going on inside of the sequencer. We're now able to split keys in MIDI and send MIDI CCs to different tracks inside of the MPC. And there's also a brand new way to browse and look for samples and sounds and instruments and load them up onto the pads. So that and a few more workflow improvements really makes a big difference to the overall functionality of the MPC. So let's run through most of these things after this intro.
Accurate beats.
Alright, so let's start with something kind of small, but that makes a big difference to someone like me, at least. Of course, I'm talking about this new shortcut menu that pulls out from the left-hand side like that and gives you access to 5 different options from the main menu to jump to. And those are the same as the ones we can see in the main menu on the left-hand side. And you're now also able to edit this entire page and rearrange the icons however you see fit. So you can put anything on the left-hand side to make that accessible through this one. And this might not sound like the biggest change in the world, but this just makes my overall workflow a lot quicker, easier, and faster. And that's just always welcome. What more that's new here is this new menu called Sounds, and that takes us to this page that gives us access to choose from anything inside of the MPC without having to go into the browser to look for them. So let's go to our plugins, for instance. Let's choose Mellotron, and these are the different categories of sounds to choose from. So let's go to violins, and these are the presets themselves. So let's go for violin 1, for instance, and now it's loaded up. And from here I'm able to go straight into my edit instrument page, and here we are. Now I can make any adjustments to the sound that I want and then save it as a favorite inside of the sounds menu itself. Let's do a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And let's go back to the sounds menu. Let's go to favorites. And it's saved just like that. And of course, this doesn't only apply to the Mellotron, this works for everything in the entire system. Really cool. And it's not just the instruments either. We can go back here and load up drums from any of our expansions. Get this nice view of everything right here and just pick whatever preset kit we want and play it. Simple as that. But if you still need to find something on your SSD or your SD card, for instance, you still have access to the normal browser that we're used to. I mentioned that we're getting 2 new plugins, where the first one is called Flavor and is pretty much a lo-fi type of effect similar to the RC20 by Excellent Audio that a lot of people, including me, uses a lot. So let's put it on the master bus for this track that I'm playing with a little bit. It's called Flavor and it's found under Harmonics, so there we are. So let's go to a preset here, the one called Reel to Reel, maybe? First of all, let's listen to the loop without the effect, and it sounds like this. Now, turning Flavor on. So that's me applying one of the more crazy presets on my entire mixdown. And that's cool, but maybe not every single time. Using an effect like this on your drums or your Rhodes pianos or something to get a little bit of distortion, saturation, crunchiness out of it. That's where I feel like an effect like this really makes sense in a mix. Let's try to apply this on like an electric piano, for instance. So first, with Flavor off, and let's turn it on. So honestly, I do like this one a lot, but I see a danger here in overusing this one and putting it on every single track for everything you do. So let's not do that. Let's use this one tastefully and move on to the amp sim. That's also a new thing in 2.11. So let's turn off flavor right there and open up the amp sim like that. The Air amp sim sounds exactly like what it is, or is exactly what it sounds like. It simulates amplifiers, so it's great for guitars and basses, but I would use it for pretty much anything that needs a little bit of extra crunch or distortion or grittiness or whatever. It comes with 11 different cabinets to choose from in different sizes, and let's put it on this electric piano again. Let's increase the drive. That's kind of crazy. Now let's try to put it on the entire track that I had going before. First, no effect at all. Then let's turn it on. Let's replace the cabinet, adjust the bass. Maybe that's a little bit much, so let's take it off and let's apply it again to the drums, nothing else. Drums without the amp sim, and with it. So super useful stuff right here, but again, be a little bit careful and cautious not to overuse this, because things just go south quickly on this one. Now let's go to the sequencer from the grid menu to talk about what's new here. And at the same place where we can find the velocity, we can now also find probability and ratcheting. Let's start by using probability. And this isn't really anything new. Sure, it's new for the MPCs, but it's been around for a while now for drum machines and samplers and that sort of stuff. And the probability value dictates how likely it is for a sample to be played back in a sequence. So in this case, I have a few kicks and snare loaded up, and the probability is set to the maximum value for all of them. So the kicks and snares are always going to play. But if I wanted to add some hi-hats in 16th notes like that, and then go into my probability setting and actually change the value for all of them down there, for instance. Or, of course, change these values per step. That also works. So what's cool here is that the next time this loop plays back, it's not going to be exactly the same, because we're introducing an element of randomness here. So just one of those things that I like to see being implemented in the MPC. Now, the next thing here is called ratchet, and it's pretty much a way to get notes to play more than once on an individual step or a trigger. So let's erase those hi-hats like that, and let's actually add hi-hats in 8 notes instead. Like that, and let's go into ratcheting. Let's go for the pencil tool and let's increase the value of that one. So instead of playing once, it now plays 4 times. Let's increase this one even more, like that. Let's get that one to play 3 times, twice. I don't know, something like that. So really cool and handy when you want to create these more intricate hi-hat patterns, or I don't know, this could be applied to pretty much anything, bass notes or sample chops or anything like that. You know, it just makes the finer edits of the small details inside of the sequencer a little bit faster. Honestly, I'm not sure how much I'm gonna use this functionality myself for my style of beats, but I'm sure I'm gonna find ways to use it somehow. It's cool to have new functionality in the sequencer, so I'm a fan. Akai has also made a few improvements here when it comes to the Ableton Link functionality that I'm not really the right guy to talk about because I don't use that much. I've used the MPC together with the iPad sometimes and using the Ableton Link functionality like that, but I'm not a huge user of that, but it's new and improved and better than before, so that's always something, right? Now, this is something that I'm really excited about having inside of the MPC that has to do with sampling which is something that I do a lot of, so that makes sense. You're now able to convert a pad, like a slice from a sample, into a playable instrument that you can play on a keyboard or the pads themselves in chromatic mode or in any of the scaled modes that are in here. And this works without having to go any crazy routes in the software at all. So let's go back to sequence 1. We all remember that one, and that's my sample. So let's take that one, for instance, and let's jump into our program edits and hit the little keyboard icon up here. Right? That's kind of cool, but this could also be applied to the notes mode or the pad performance mode. Let's set up a scale here. So, you know, what's really happening here is that the MPC gives me a new track and a new key group program with the slice assigned to it, and it's immediately playable like that. That's a nice and simple way to get that to work without having to resample anything or export anything or assign a single pad to a key group in a new track. This all just works by itself, and it's cool. Definitely something that's going to be beneficial to my workflow when using samples, so thank you. Now let's get a MIDI keyboard connected to this one, and let me show you a little bit of the stuff that has to do with the key ranges and the keyboard splits, because that's also kind of powerful. So this is a new project, so let's start by opening up a few sounds. Another track. Let's go for an electric piano. Cool, and let's go into the key ranges, and these are my 2 tracks that's going on right now. Electric piano and drums. So let's set the range for track 1 to go from there to that. And let's move the keys to go from there to there. And now I can play both of the tracks from one keyboard at the same time on different tracks. And of course, that's just a start. This is just some drums and some keys. This could very well be drums, keys, and a bass sound that corresponds to some of the notes. Or I could also set the regions to overlap and stack sounds up like that and play like some keys and a pad sound and some strings at the same time over here. And maybe adding a bass sound or a distorted synth line or whatever down here. What I think is cool about this is how easy this is to set up. Sure, playing more instruments than one on a keyboard might be a bit tricky, but the technical aspect of setting it up on the MPC is dead simple, couldn't be easier, and it is really useful, especially for people who like play the keys a lot or wants to play a keyboard with the MPC for a live show and have access to more instruments than one. You know, there are tons of ways to use this functionality. It's here and it's new and it's really good. And I guess that about wraps it up for the stuff that I find interesting about the upcoming 2.11 update for the MPCs. And again, it's not coming out today, it's going to be released on the 23rd of June, so keep your eyes open and make sure to download it if you find these things interesting, because, you know, why not, right? And I just realized that I forgot to mention the built-in tuner, which is good for guitars and basses and maybe modular synths or whatever like that. And also the new row of menu options down here. New project, save, project, and preferences. And there are a few more minor workflow improvements that I haven't touched on, but make sure to download it and check it out. It's cool. And that's it for this one. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure to subscribe and like and comment. And I also have a Patreon page and stuff. But most importantly, thanks a lot for watching. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Until then, ha det gott!
Accurate beats.